lies that you're stewing. Don't stray far from the hearth place, not while you are brewing.
Welcome to the Witchlit podcast. It's from Witches Who Write, and I'm Wendy Steele saying hello from sunny Wales, and I'm here with my colleague
Sheena Cundy from good old deepest, darkest Essex.
So originally I was an Essex girl, but I've never actually met Sheena, as we were talking on the first podcast a couple of weeks ago. But we've been in contact online, got together, found out about each other's books. Sheena had already started up the Witchlit group on Facebook. And as everything's growing and getting bigger, we thought we're going to branch out. We're going to talk to you directly, which we think is a lot of fun. So thank you for joining us today. You'll get used to the way that we work. It's all going to be very improvised. So we're going to start today by just letting you know a little bit about what we've been doing. So writing wise. And it'll be really cool if you can put things in the comments about what you're doing so that we can find out about your magical writing as well. So Sheena, what have you been up to in the 2 weeks since we last spoke?
Well, I have been working on book one of my Witchlit series, which I'm bringing out hopefully by Ostara. So March the 27th I'm aiming for. As I said in the last episode, it's a book which was published with Moon Books back in 2015. So I'm republishing it because I want to have creative control over it. And because I'm publishing in a series, that's important. And but it has proved a little bit, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride these last couple of weeks, because the thing is, they won't give me, the publishers, I don't know whether it's normal for the publisher not to do this, but they won't give me although they've given me my rights back, and I'm very grateful for that, they won't give me my copy text back. So I've got a review copy, which is a PDF, but if you want to publish, as you know, Wendy, if you want to publish onto any platform in ebook style, you've got to do it from a Word document. So I have been trying to convert my PDF back into a Word document, which basically there's been a lot of corruption in the process. So I actually did have to fork out for a conversion, which wasn't very expensive. It was okay, but I'm still having to reformat the manuscript, which has been a bit of a nightmare, but I've kind of got into a bit of a groove now. So I've been reformatting, and as you know, Wendy, when you revisit any piece of work, you can always see things that, change that word there, that sentence is a bit clunky there, what was I thinking there? That not too much, but so I've been polishing it up. So I've been sort of re-editing it a bit as well. Yesterday I finished it, which is so I'm feeling quite tired at the moment because I've had 2 full-on weeks of really just doing nothing else apart from, writing wise, apart from that. So I haven't written any more new words, trying not to feel guilty about that. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you can only work on one thing at a time, can't you? And as we've said before, I'm not a full-time writer at the moment. I'd love to be, but I've just got too many other things, with family commitments, other bits and bobs of work going on, that I cannot commit full-time hours to writing at the moment. So you just have to sandwich it in when you can, don't you, and squeeze it all in. So I'm pretty pleased that I finished that now. So I've now got to upload that into an ebook format, an EPUB or a Mobi file, so that I can then upload it onto Amazon. So the next stage is then getting a cover design, because I can't use the same cover design that I had for the first, the Madness and the Magic with Moon books. So I'm kind of in the throes of trying to decide what to do about that, because and I even wrote to Amazon yesterday. I emailed Amazon and said, look, what's the score with creating a new subgenre? Because I don't know about you, but I've looked at all the categories on Amazon, and yes, there are things like metaphysical and visionary and humorous women's fiction, but there's no witch lit.
No.
There's no witch lit. And so you find yourself thinking, oh, well, it's a little bit of that, and it's a little bit of this, and it's a little bit of the other. But it would be so much easier if there was just a category that said witch lit.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
You know, but I got a very polite letter back saying, well, we can understand how you feel. Really? Can you? But it ain't going to happen, sort of thing, you know. So fair enough. You know, I tried.
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing is, it brought it to my attention when I've been looking for a cover design, because I'm thinking I need to be as familiar to the genre as possible so that people are going to look at it and go, that's witch lit. You know, that's what we want, isn't it? People to think
definitely.
that. You want the reader to immediately know what that book is, the essence of that book is about. So, yeah. So
I mean, maybe that's something for another podcast that we could actually talk about covers.
Yeah.
Because especially as we're both writing a series.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that the covers link on and other things like that. So maybe that's a something that we can talk about for our readers and writers who are watching at another podcast. You've done brilliant. I mean, basically you're creating a second edition, you know, the fact you're making alterations and things like that, and that requires a lot of work. So no beating yourself up, you've done no writing, because that's a big thing to do, you know, and a really important thing for you to have that book and send it out into the world from you this time, from your magical heart out into the world. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about not having done any new writing. I think that's pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that.
yeah.
What about you, Wendy? What you've been doing?
Well, my 10th book is on hold at the moment. My choice. January and February are always you know, the kind of darkest months, if you like, and what I've decided this year is to try and get new projects started, not just writing projects but dance projects, stuff with the house and stuff like that, in January and February, so that when the weather gets better and I want to be outside and I want to be doing other stuff, that I'm not committed to what I call shitty paperwork. So I'm trying to get loads of stuff like that out of the way at the moment.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing is writing short stories, because the amount of time I've got is a bit smaller. So I'm working on a short story at the moment for Zim Bell Publishing, who have just recently brought out a new anthology with one of my stories in called The Crocodile Brooch. So I'm working on one for them at the moment, so that I can keep doing a little bit of writing. But I've been doing writing for other things. So our dance group we're staying the same as we are in some respects, but we're branching out in others. So I've been writing little bits of blurb for us and things like that. So yeah, a little bits of writing, but not novel number 10 just yet. It started, but I need a bigger amount of time, same as you, really. I need a bigger amount of time to commit to it. So
the fact that you just mentioned your dancing is brilliant, because you're a dancing teacher, aren't you? You're a belly dancing teacher. Yeah. And that just reminds me of my protagonist, you know, my character Minerva in my book. Her and her friend Isis met at belly dancing classes.
Brilliant.
Now, I don't know anything about belly dancing, but you know, and that was probably one of the things in the book which I wrote about, which, you know, they say write what you know, and most of my witchlet is what I know, like as we were talking about before, you know, because we live the lives of witches, in real life witches in the modern day world. And you know, it's not too difficult to weave the fabric of your own life into your fiction. But there are going to be elements, and that was definitely one for me with the belly dancing. So I might have to come to you for research, or when I have to sort of, fine tune it. So yeah.
I mean, if she, I think she went to an Egyptian belly dancing, didn't she? She was Egyptian belly dance, which is where I started. I teach American tribal style now, which is a kind of different style of belly dance, but still with much of its influence from Egyptian belly dance. So yeah, I'll be happy to do that, no problem at all. So far, quite a few of my protagonists in my novels, they do dance, but none of them has actually become a belly dancer yet. So I think I'm shearing away from it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we do now we've come out of the broom cupboard. That was behind the broom cupboard, behind the scenes stuff. Shall we do a bit of Witchanory? Shall we read some
definitely.
So what are you going to read out?
Well, what I thought I'd do today is I'm going to read from this is the second book in the Lizzie Martin series. This one's the Orphan Witch, and the little piece I'm going to read, writing about what you know. This is a scene where Lizzie and her best friend Louise, they're in Wales, and Lizzie wants to do a ritual, and the place that I chose to do it is called Lake Talyllyn, and it's one of my favourite places in Wales. And whenever we used to come on holiday to Wales, this was a must. It didn't matter what part of Wales we were on holiday in, I had to go here. And the lake is just below Cadair Idris. So I'm going to have to remove these and read you just a little bit of story. It was past 3 o'clock, but the clouds had parted and pale blue sky greeted them in the car park at one end of Lake Talyllyn. Once out of Dolgothlo, and having followed the curving road around the base of one mountain, it was uphill all the way. The lack of traffic and people was a blessing as the little red car wound its way through narrow lanes, the land falling away to nothing on one side. Lizzie opened gates, almost knocked off her feet by the powerful wind blowing across the flat plains at the base of the mountain. Buzzards soared, performing their spiral dance with ease and grace. By the time they walked to the summit, Lizzie's first disappointment was her coat's permeability. The second was the impossibility of lighting a candle on a mountain top. Louise sat hunched behind a rock, flinching from the wind and driving rain. The surge began inside Lizzie, the guilt and desire to make everything better for Louise. The rain hammered down, saturating the contents of Lizzie's bag. She grabbed her wand and turned to the north. With the circle cast about them, Lizzie let herself go. No elements were invited, or gods or goddesses. There was no time. She lifted her arms to the sky, a churning mass of grey fog, and cried, "Mother of the earth, hear my prayer." Inside the circle, the gale dropped to a breeze, and the scalding rain a light drizzle. Lights below in the distance outlined the coast, but from this vantage point, the sea and sky merged. A new light sent shadows glinting onyx luminous streets, screaming across the water, before a figure on horseback leapt onto the mountain top. Lizzie knelt before the goddess, looking up into bewitching green eyes. Rhiannon's pale shift was embroidered with pansies, and she wore a single ruby at her throat. She put her finger to her delicate lips as Lizzie tried to speak. A canary balanced easily on Rhiannon's other hand. The goddess stroked his head, and the bird sang. The song lifted Lizzie high above the mountains, buoyed by the beautiful music. Voices harmonized, filling her heart with joy. All around her, melodies pulsed from the pearly sky, while drum rhythms sought her ears from the earth. And below it, deep in the underworld, strains of fairy music rose up between the roots of the trees. In the valleys, the choirs buoyed her, the warmth and passion of the voices carrying her back to the peak. Lizzie stood, legs shaking, to find the bird had stopped singing and disappeared. Rhiannon took her hands. Warm honey heat flooded her body. She must not be afraid. Her narrow world was widening, opportunities were coming, and doors were opening. Open your eyes to the bigger picture, said Rhiannon, to family and friends, but not only in this world. Look for the magical world beyond the door, and there you will find home.
Oh, I like that. I like that. That was very transportive.
Thank
I
you.
mean, really sort of, I was there on that mountaintop, you know, in braving the elephants with Lizzie and yeah. And it's lovely that you've brought the goddess in and you've, you know, your image of the goddess, and you've painted that picture. And I just think that's lovely, because that is part of our experiences, isn't it? We experience that ritual in ceremony and working our magic. That's what we experience. And if that's, you know, if we can put that across in our words and, you know, in our stories, I think that you know, you're sharing your magic on a different level.
That's what I hope to do.
Yeah,
and
definitely, Wendy.
I mean, I do some description, but I try not to put in too much, because I think it's really lovely for a reader to paint their own picture.
Yeah.
So I try and set the scene and then allow the reader to do the rest. But good, I'm glad you enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah,
so
I
just
did. That was the Orphan Witch, yeah.
Yeah, that's the second book in the series. So the Naked Witch is the first one, and this is the Orphan Witch is the second one. Yeah.
Okay, I need to read that. Because I've read the first one. Right. Okay. This was from The Madness and the Magic, and this is a scene where with Isis and Minerva, who I was just talking about. Minerva's the main character. Isis is her friend. And Isis is very excited. She's coming round to give some news to Minerva, and which kind of changes everything. So, yeah. So when Isis rang the crafty cottage doorbell later that day, she was fit to burst. The memory of what had passed only minutes before danced about in her mind and all over her face. Brimming with excitement, she hopped from one leg to the other, barely able to contain herself. After what seemed like an age, a dishevelled-looking Minerva appeared. Isis, aren't you a little early for our class? I thought it was 7. She glanced at the clock in the hallway. And it's only 5. I know that, Minerva. I'm just passing on my way back from the shop. But I had to stop and let you know. She glanced over her shoulder. Shut the door behind you, please, Minerva called from the kitchen, putting the kettle on. Firmly planted in the living room and waiting for her friend to join her, Isis pondered over the past few months. The belly dancing classes had been the best thing for both of them, especially after she'd lost her husband Derek to the Molly maid of all things, and Minerva had lost her friend Eve to that awful illness. Joining the class had proved a real tonic, and they had bonded right from the start. What a scream it was. The perfect excuse and remedy for her lack of confidence for Isis to indulge in her Egyptian fetish. Changing her name had felt entirely natural and seemed to seal her fate with the hallmark of mystery and magic. Isis, Egyptian goddess. It was far better than plain old Beryl, and she felt so different. Nothing like the dowdy, boring woman she'd begun to think she looked and felt like, and Minerva was right, it had transformed her. It was the best thing she'd ever done, and now she was never out of her dancing attire. In fact, she wore it all the time. Such wonderful colours and exquisite materials. The silks, the satins, and the sandals. Oh, and the hairpieces, how she loved them, so glamorous. Admittedly, she was still learning to get it right, and some of them did keel over to one side slightly. But the point was she was daring to be different. She was taking the plunge, shedding her old skin, just like snakes did, as Minerva put it, and she'd never felt better. Minerva swarmed into the room with renewed vigour and 2 steaming mugs. Right then, Isis, out with it, she said. Well, I was at the shop and noticed a poster on the board outside, said Isis. Minerva took a deep breath. And anything interesting? She shuffled in her chair, noticing that the angle of her friend's hairpiece was not quite as acute as it actually was. She was pleased to see that practice was making a little nearer to perfect. It was a progress of sorts. Well, will you spit it out, Isis, before I give up the will to live, said Minerva. We have a new vicar, said Isis. Minerva looked at her friend and felt the odd stirrings of contempt in the pit of her stomach. A new vicar, she sneered. Well, I suppose it's about time, though the village has been without one for 6 months now and nobody seems to have suffered too much. The church is still standing and so are the people. Sarcasm came easily to Minerva when it came to matters of a religious nature, especially with regard to the Christian faith. Not that it was a bad one, or that she had anything against any Christians personally, but she felt, as a pagan and practising witch, and proud of it, that the church had an awful lot to answer for. Somewhere buried deep in her subconscious lurked the collective memories of those poor souls who'd suffered for only ever being different from the church, for daring to resist and turn away from the power that sought to dominate and control the masses. Those poor victims of corruption, all those innocent people branded heretics and devil worshippers just because they didn't need a priest or a vicar or someone who was ordained to act as an intermediary between them and the creative forces of the world. Crimes against humanity she could not endure or forgive any man for. Shame on them. It was more than enough to get her started and step right up there onto her worn and battered soapbox. He's gorgeous, Minerva, said Isis. How do you know? He was in the shop. Married? Not sure, said Isis. There's only one thing to find out then, said Minerva. One way to find out then. By doing what, said Isis. Going to church, of course. When's his first gig? Gig? Isis looked puzzled. Yes, his first appearance, Minerva flung out her arms. The pulpit is the perfect stage for a new vicar. Sometimes, thought Minerva, Isis felt just a tad too far behind. And sometimes, thought Isis, Minerva was a little too forward for her own good.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
That sets the scene so beautifully for their friendship. The way their friendship works, and having read the book, I can say that's a really good scene that shows the push and pull of their friendship, and because then it all starts from their that the vicar has arrived. So
it does,
brilliant.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's like, as I was saying earlier, revisiting that again, I thought to myself, my God, I could see this as a little, a little drama series or a film or something, and I'm sure you can when you're writing, you see it so vividly in your mind's eye, don't you? That, you never know. But what I'd like to do is and I asked one of the members of our band, Morrigan's Path, is a videographer, and I spoke to him yesterday about doing a book trailer video for it when it comes out, because he's so good at putting things together and producing video, and I thought, well, that would be great, because I wrote the song The Madness and the Magic, which is our little Witchlit intro and outro on the podcast, everybody. So that is the song that I wrote for the with the book after I'd written the book. So and we did a little video of that as well, for the duration of the song, but it would be great just to get a little trailer that I could use, in promotion and marketing. So, what else do we want to talk about, Wendy?
What are you reading?
Oh, yes. What are you reading at the moment? Or what have you read? Or what can you recommend?
I'm reading. So I've got a fiction book next to me that I read a fiction and a non-fiction always at the same time. But I'm reading this at the moment, which is Laura Perry's The Wiccan Wellness book.
Yeah.
So she wrote this a little while ago, and this is now a second edition that she's now updated. So and it's brilliant because the way that it's done, you could just sit and read the whole thing, or you could pull out different chapters, so that there's chapters on exercise, your healthy surroundings, so your environment, different methods of healthcare. that she goes through, as well as kind of rituals and things that you could use for your own well-being. I think it's lovely. I started at the beginning, and then since then I've started picking out little bits, but I want to read a bit more before I review. But because I've only just picked out a few little bits, but I'm loving it. I think it's one of those books that you buy and you probably read it once and then put it aside, and then something will pop up and you think, oh, I need to look in that book. You know, it's that kind of book. So yeah, I'm quite excited about that. So that's Laura Perry, the Wiccan Wellness book.
And we must get Laura onto the podcast.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we must interview her.
I think she should be the first one, don't you think? Our first author.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea. Yeah, because we're going to talk about, when you've said about what you're reading, we're going to talk about the anthology, and obviously Laura has a really big hand in the Witchlit anthology. So what are you reading, my love?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't got a physical book to show, because I have just finished listening to, so I listen to a lot of audio. So I'm signed up to Audible, which is great because and I don't buy any books. I just use my credits. You get you sign up with a subscription. So I think it's $7.99 a month, and you get one free credit a month for that subscription. And now audiobooks are expensive. So it is worth it. I think it is worth it. And because I'm out a lot with the dogs, and I just plug my phones in and my headphones in, and I'm off and away. And I've just listened to a really lovely book called You Are a Goddess by an author called Sophie Bashford. And she's from the UK. She has been doing a lot of goddess and women's circle work for a number of years now. But this is her kind of personal story weaved into a really good introduction and initiation into goddess energy. It's fantastic. And she uses 9 archetypal goddesses, and meditation with each. Their teachings. She takes you into the temple, and it really is like a spiritual transmission. I loved it, and I'm listening to it again now. So I'm listening to it again because as far as the meditation things go, I don't know what you think about this, Wendy, but when I'm reading a book, a physical book, and there's written meditations, how often do we sit down and think, right, I'm going to do this meditation? I always think, I'll do that later. I'll come back to that, and then I carry on reading the rest of the book, and I never go back to it. So actually listening to something on audio, I was able to stop where I was with the dogs, or sit down on a log or something, or make sure that I listen to that when I come back, and I can be still and, actually experience the meditation for what it is. But yeah, no, I loved it, and I reviewed it on Amazon, and because I like to review. I don't know about you, but I love to review books because they all go to help, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we'd be such hypocrites if we didn't review, when we obviously ask our readers to very kindly drop a few lines of review for us. Yeah. So yeah, no, I always review, and I always try and review like places that I've been to eat and things like that as well, because I just think it really helps other people. So yeah, I do try as well. Yeah.
Okay. As we've said before, everybody, Wendy and I run a Witchlit group on Facebook, but for those of you that aren't on Facebook, it doesn't matter, because we're going to give an email address which you can send a contribution if you would like to, if you're a writer and you would like to contribute to our Witchlit anthology. And Witchlit, bearing in mind, is, well, Wendy and my own Witchlit is real life, modern day witches in a contemporary world, and all the trials and tribulations that go along with that. But we're kind of widening the goalpost a little bit with our anthology to include poetry, all right? Poetry and any essays or non-fiction that anybody would like to contribute. And we are going to publish this. This is an ebook, and the proceeds from the published ebook will go towards a literary charity called Books for Africa. Is that right, Wendy? Yeah.
That's
So
right.
all the proceeds, and of course in the ebook we'll have live links from each author to their pages, to their other work that's online. So it will be, you know, it's good promotion. It will get people out there a little bit more visibly in the digital market space. So and we're hoping that it's going to spread the witchlit word around a bit more. So that it can't be a bad thing, can it, Wendy?
No, definitely not. And I think just being able to read a small amount of somebody's writing is such a good way to find out about their style, to see what future work they've done. And I mean, we're talking about witchlit as such. I mean, I've written this, you know, I'm writing this series at the moment, but the other books, the other novels that I've written are still magical writing, but maybe in a slightly different way. My Standing Stones series is still magical, still talks about the goddess, and that's set in 3 different points of time and space. So that's, but it's still magical. So yeah, this is what we're finding with the new people that join Witchlit, and the, you know, and interacting with them, that this idea of magical writing is a much wider category, and I think in a way Amazon might be missing a trick there, because I think that this kind of writing is getting more and more popular. We're getting more and more readers to this. I think to some extent the age of the werewolf and the vampire and whatever, you know, it's been hammered, isn't it? You know, that kind of genre has been so hammered with writing and movies. Maybe it's time for real magic, you know. I don't know whether you saw, there was a program on Netflix called Sense8, if anybody saw that, which was real people experiencing real magic, and so yeah, I think it's going to be out there. So yeah, it's the start of something big. I can feel it. It's coming.
Feel it in our water. And I think it's a good place to say that we've got 2 weeks till the deadline. So the deadline for those contributions is 28th of Feb, and our release date is the 21st. So midsummer, we're hoping that's going to come out, everybody. But you've got another 2 weeks. And if you can, I'll put the link in the show notes, but if you can send it to Laura at lauraperryauthor.com, then Laura handles all the contributions. I think she's quite happy to sort of like copy edit, and then we're doing other various jobs. We're going to sort of format and cover design and all that kind of thing, which we can talk about next time, Wendy, as well. If we can talk about definitely. Cover design, that would be great, because we need a cover for the anthology, remember?
We do. So
it would be nice. It would be nice if we had a little bit of you know, interaction from our audience, because it's something which you know, other people could have a bit of a say in. As this is a magical show and we are witches who write, I work with the tarot sort of pretty much all the time. So and you know, I know we're in the digital age and we've got all these wonderful digital tools, but I still think that the magical tools you know, have a place, definitely. So this is a card for the readers. So would you like to pick one, readers? Okay, I'll have a minute, I'll do it for you, all right? Oh, I say, look at that. Can you see that, everybody? Can you see that, Wendy?
Emperor.
The Emperor. Do you know anything about the tarot?
I don't know a lot about the tarot, but I know that that's a major arcana card.
Yeah.
So to some extent, fate is at work, rather than it being something that I can influence strongly. But I don't know much about that card. Tell us.
Okay, well, the Emperor is, like as you say, it's a masculine energy. It's a very powerful energy. It's about taking responsibility. It's about actually that yang energy. It's about getting out there and making it happen, and also turning all our intuitive and spiritual and magical ideas into workable projects. So although we said this was for readers, it could also be for writers as well, couldn't it?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It's about actually doing all, turning that goddess into a goddess energy, which we work with naturally and emotionally and intuitively, actually turning it into something manifestational and workable and action. It's about taking action. The Emperor is all about really making things happen. So I think that's a pretty good card for everyone, really. I mean, we can all relate to that on some level, can't we?
Yeah,
we can
definitely.
all relate to that. I mean, it certainly resonates for me at the moment, and I'm sure it does for you. Not only with your writing, but with all those projects you've got on your small holding in Wales.
Yeah, I'm spinning quite a few plates at the moment, I have to say. Yeah. I have quite an important meeting this afternoon with the council, and it could make the difference between us being able to finish what we've started here, or maybe not, maybe having to change our plan. So quite yeah, that's really quite profound, actually.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad it relates, and I hope it's related to our audience as well on some level. Be interesting to get any feedback on that. And I think that leaves us, Wendy, with just really sort of to tell everyone where they can get in contact with us online. So where can people find you and your work online?
So you can find me on Amazon via my author page. So I'm Wendy Steele, Steele, and I'm at wendysteele.com as well. So if you go to my website, you can find out about me, my writing, my dancing, my magic, and also something, another kind of project that I'm really into this year is my own fitness and plant-based eating. So you can find recipes, all sorts of stuff. Never a dull moment in my house.
You are a goddess of many things. Oh, that's brilliant. But that's what happens when you're creative, isn't it? And when you're working on magical levels, and it sort of filters out into all different levels of your, from the magic to the mundane, from the mundane back to the magic. Yeah. And if anybody wants to get a taster of my work, then you just log on to sheenacundy.com, and you can download a free short story. You want to sign up to my newsletter, I think I'll put that link in the show notes as well, but I think it's subscribepage.com/Black Dogs, which is the prequel, the short story, which you can download straight away, is the it's a very short story, 6,000 words, but it's actually, I think I did mention this before actually, but yeah, it's quite good fun, and it gives you a taster of what's to come in book one. But I hope that you enjoyed this little episode with Wendy and I, everyone, and I've certainly enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it, Wendy?
Oh, it's always good fun to chat with you, Sheena.
Yeah, we do have good fun, don't we? Any comments, any feedback? If anybody wants to ask us any questions, then just shoot them our way, and we'll
see if we can help you.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Yeah, it would be interesting to get more readers on board. Anybody want any help with their writing, then just let us know. Okay, so until then, that leaves us just to say tatty bye for now, everybody. So it's bye from me from Essex.
Right, blessings. Bye from Wales. Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye.